if y'all want to grab any kind of props that you like to use, I really like the blocks to help like lift the ground up toward me. And then I have like little sensitive knees. So I like my blanket for anytime we're on hands and knees, which will only be a little bit today. All right, so for today, we're actually going to get started on our feet. We don't usually do that. But today, I really want to focus on like helping us articulate our spine, get a little bit of like movement and space in the spine. So we'll be focusing on moving the spine in all 6 directions. So, like forward and backward, flexion and extension, lateral extension side to side, and then a little bit of twisting right and left. So, that is the plan for today. And we're going to get started, like I said, in a standing position. So let's just take a minute to like kind of shift around in our bodies, just maybe kind of check in with different parts of the body and see like how are we doing? How are we feeling right now? How are we feeling on this Friday afternoon, which is coming after like quite a couple of weeks, right? So, like maybe there's some tension in the shoulders that you're noticing. Can you like relax your belly a little bit? Is there anything else that's happening for you in the body? Maybe you want to relax your jaw a little bit. Maybe you can like relax the brow, the temple area. You might even like to take a few gentle kind of shoulder rolls to start getting moving and warming things up. Maybe for you, it's like your wrists. Maybe you've been doing a lot of typing, right? Maybe your neck is feeling a little tight and you want to do a little neck movement side to side, little half circles. So just taking a minute here to check in with the body and see how it's feeling and what might need a little bit of like extra love as we move through our practice together today. And as we prepare to practice together, let's just take a minute to really come fully into the body and connect with the breath. So if it's comfortable for you, you might want to close the eyes for a moment and then focus on the weight of your body as your feet hold you up. As your feet hold you up in time and space, feel that heaviness of the body, the contact between your feet and whatever is beneath you. And then notice the breath. Can you send the breath nice and deep into your lungs so that your belly begins to expand? And then letting that breath go gently. And then one more of those nice deep breaths. And then letting that go. Nice. And then we can just sort of reawaken through the body, open the eyes, and we'll get started. So if you are ready, what we'll do is we'll sweep our arms up above our head, reaching up toward the sky, like kind of feeling the spine growing nice and long. And then from here, let's cactus our arms, like bringing our arms in toward our ribs here. Maybe you can even look up a little bit and start to open the heart space toward the sky. Nice. And then we'll sweep the arms up toward the sky one more time. And then from here, starting with the chin, let's start to roll forward, like articulating through the spine, one vertebra at a time. You might want to bring your hands to your thighs and let them slide slowly down the fronts of your legs. As you come to or toward the floor, if that floor is feeling especially far away for you, you might put some blocks there. And then just kind of finally letting your head dangle for a moment. You might want to like rock side to side. Your knees can be bent or straight. Maybe you even want to bend and straighten the knees a little bit here. And then we'll very slowly begin to come back to standing, coming up one vertebra at a time again, with your chin coming up last. And then just take a pause, take a breath, and notice, like, how does the body feel? How did that feel in your body? Any information that you'd like to take into the rest of your practice here? And then we'll do that again, sweeping the arms up toward the sky, really reaching up, imagining that your head is being pulled up toward the sky by an invisible string to help you get that length in the spine. And then we'll exhale and cactus those arms again, bringing our elbows in toward the ribs. And this time, maybe taking a slightly bigger back bend as we look up, opening the heart toward the sky. And then letting that go, sweeping arms up one more time. And then again, let's begin to roll down. Chin comes first, and then the upper spine. Again, you might like to slide the hands down the legs, moving through the spine slowly. Noticing how each part of the back feels here, upper, mid, lower, until you come down to your ending place, wherever that is for you. And then we'll begin to unroll, coming back up to standing very slowly, one vertebra at a time, or something like it, with our chin coming up last. And then again, just taking a breath, taking a moment, noticing how the body feels, how you feel. And then we'll do that one more time, really continuing to enliven and awaken the spine. So again, sweeping the arms up, reaching as far up as you possibly can. This time, let's lean over to one side for a moment, taking a nice side bend, half moon. So you can always grab a wrist, grab one wrist with the other hand, or you can sort of make prayer hands in this position. And we're just coming down as far as feels good for us, feeling an opening in the opposite side of the body. And then we'll come back through center, re-lengthen the spine, grow super tall, and then come up and over to the second side. Noticing how this side of the body feels. Maybe for you, it's very different from the first side. And then coming back through center. And then let's go back to our cactusy back bend, bringing those elbows in toward the ribs, and then looking up and back. Maybe you can deepen your back bend just a little bit here. And then we'll sweep the arms up one more time and do our nice slow roll down. Noticing whether you feel any difference in the sensation here, maybe a little bit more freedom, maybe something's come unstuck. And then once we're down in our forward fold, really letting the head be heavy and hang. You might like to nod your head yes, shake your head no. Again, maybe you'd like to take some bends with the knees here. And then again, let's take opposite elbows and let our elbows be sort of a extra weight, giving our spine additional length, maybe even rocking from side to side in this ragdoll position. And then from here, stepping our feet out nice and wide. So we're still in our forward fold. Maybe we have our blocks with us. And then just sort of playing with the stance here until you find what's feeling good for you. So wide for you today might be, like double hip width, or maybe wide for you is a little wider, playing around with it a little bit. And then refolding, thinking about this time hinging forward from the hips. You might like to sort of bend one knee and then the other. Finding a little lateral movement here. And then once you come back to center, refolding and coming into your forward fold a little bit more fully in this wide-legged position. Breathing deeply here, staying connected with that breath. Bringing that intention of kindness, gentleness into our practice. We don't need to push ourselves here. This is a calming approach to our practice rather than being a high energy one. And if you'd like here, you might take one hand and reach to or towards the opposite ankle, finding a little bit of a twist in your forward fold. If you're trying that out and you like it and you want to twist more, you can always reach that free arm up to the sky. And if you're twisting, let's untwist and come back through center for a moment. Resetting, maybe you want to bend one knee and then the other again. Re-lengthening the spine in the forward fold. And then if you twisted in one direction, let's do that a second time, taking the opposite hand that you used the first time and reaching across. Maybe you'd like to stay here, or maybe for you, it's an extra little twist, reaching those free hand fingers up toward the sky. Great. And then we'll unwind, come back to our forward fold, and then heel toe the feet in just a little bit here. So we're still in a little bit of a wide stance, like feet are more than hip width apart. And then from here, keeping those hands on your blocks or on the floor, beginning to sit the hips down into a squat. So your deep squat today might be here, and that's great. Maybe for you, you're coming down a little bit farther. Wherever you are, just sort of moving in a way that feels intuitive. Maybe you'd like to rock from side to side a little bit here, making some space in the hip joints. Maybe you want to twist one arm up to the sky and then the other. And now, in whatever fashion or sequence of movements feels good to you, we're going to move onto our butts. So you might just want to support yourself and sit right down on the mat. And from here, let's find a comfortable seated position. We're only going to be here for a couple of moments. I've got hip stuff going on these days, so for me, I find it really helpful to just sort of lift my tailbone up a little bit. That creates a little bit more space for me in the hips. So for you, a comfortable seated position might be our bound to angle pose, seated bow to angle pose here with the soles of the feet together. You could always prop your knees up if they're like hanging out in time and space. Maybe you want to have a nice long leg extension. Maybe you want to do cross legs. So just play around with it and see what works for you. And then once you're settled into your seated position, let's think about, again, drawing the spine up nice and long, thinking about the spine growing up toward the sky. Excuse me. And from here, let's take both of our arms up toward the sky and then drop one hand to the mat and then reach up and over with the opposite arm, going back into that lateral movement of the spine. You might even turn to look up toward your elbow, up toward the sky past your elbow, thinking about letting the opposite hip be nice and heavy. And then we'll come back through center and drop the right hand to the mat, or whichever hand you didn't already have there, and come up and over with the opposite arm, turning to look up past your elbow toward the sky, letting that opposite hip be nice and heavy. And then coming back to center. And from here, just taking a moment, seeing how it feels, noticing how the neck feels, the upper back, the mid back, the legs and hips, checking in with that body one more time. And then we'll just do a gentle side twist here. So taking one hand, maybe your left hand to your right knee, so we're grabbing opposite knee, and then taking the same side hand that we're about to twist towards, so whichever knee you're holding, and placing that hand on the ground next to you, or maybe a little bit behind you. Maybe you want to put that hand on your hip. And then from here, we'll inhale the spine nice and long and gently begin to turn over that shoulder. So the arms are here to support us and help keep us tall. We're not using the strength of our arms to like crank the spine into this twist. We like to think about the twist unfolding naturally as we inhale the spine nice and long and exhale to deepen the twist just a touch. Nice. And then we'll unwind that. We'll come back through center. And then we'll do that on the second side. So whichever hand you didn't start with, let's take that one to the opposite knee. Take that same side hand to the mat beside you, behind you, maybe on your hip. And then from here, we'll inhale the spine nice and long and turn to look over that shoulder. Again, thinking about inhaling the spine nice and long with each breath and gently deepening the twist with the exhale. Nice. And then we'll come back through center. If there are any movements here you want to take before you change our orientation one more time, feel free. Maybe a few shoulder rolls. And then we're going to move on to our hands and knees here. So I'm going to take my block with me, or my blanket with me rather, to cushion my knees. And then from here, let's come into an all fours position with our knees underneath our hips and our hands underneath our shoulders. Strengthening the core by pulling the navel in toward the spine. For just a moment, finding a nice neutral position with that spine long from top of the head to the tip of the tail. And then we'll do a few rounds of cat-cow here as we continue to move through our spine. So beginning with a nice big inhale, let's begin to look up, drop the belly, and tip the hips up for our cow. Before we exhale, arch through the spine, tuck the chin, tuck the tail. For our cat, arching through the shoulder blades. And then we'll inhale, we'll come back through cow, looking up, dropping the belly. And then exhaling into cat. And then one more time, let's go through that cat, cow, that cow, cat. Inhaling into cow. And exhaling into cat. And then finding a neutral position with that spine one more time. And then from here, let's just look over one shoulder and think about bringing the hips toward the shoulders. So we're finding, again, that side bending position. Breathing into the opposite side as it opens up a little bit. And then we can come through center and do that on the second side. Bringing the hip toward the shoulder, or thinking about it anyway. So we can open up through that opposite side. And let's do that a couple of more times on each side, gently at your own pace, moving from one side to the other as we get through this side bending. Noticing whether there are like noticeable differences from one side to the other. Often that is the case. And then coming back through a nice neutral position. And from here, we can sit the hips back toward the heels. We'll come into child's pose here. If your hips and your heels are pretty far away from each other and that's feeling uncomfortable, this is a good place for maybe a block or another blanket, a pillow or cushion. And then we'll walk our hands forward, reaching toward the front of the mat, bringing the forehead to or toward the mat. Maybe wiggling the hips side to side here. Feeling that length in the spine in this new orientation. Reconnecting with the breath. Noticing how the body's feeling. And then from here, let's walk our hands over to one side. So we're in this sort of side bending child's pose. You might feel some opening behind the shoulder blade and the armpit, down the side body. Again, reconnecting with that breath. And let's move back through center, pausing in our forward centered child's pose for a moment. And then let's walk over to the opposite side. Feeling the opening in that side now. Maybe the side feels quite different from the first side. Breathing into sensation here. And then we'll release that, coming back through the center one more time. And then let's press back up to our all fours position. And from here, let's inhale one arm up to the sky. So we're in a little three-legged twist situation. And then we'll take that hand and thread it behind the wrist that's still on the ground, bringing our shoulder and our temple to or toward the mat. And then from here, if you want even more sensation or opening through the shoulder blade, you can lean away from your extended arm, feeling the opening through your shoulder blade, your upper back here. Staying connected with that breath. Letting the body come into a relaxed state with our practice here, with our breath. And then let's press back up through our all fours position, our tabletop position. Just take a moment here, pause, breathe, notice how the body feels. And then we'll do that on the second side. So whichever arm you did not start with, let's sweep that one up to the sky, get a nice open twist here, and then thread that arm behind the wrist that is still planted. And then again, if you want more sensation, you can always lean your body, lean your hips away to the other side. And then again, if you want to take any other positioning that feels good for you here. Please feel welcome to do so. Reconnecting with that breath, taking those nice, slow, deep breaths. If taking nice, slow, deep breaths feels hard right now, I recommend backing off just a little bit. Nice, and then we'll release that and press back up to all fours. And just take a second here again. Notice how you're feeling. Notice how the spine feels. Does it feel a little bit unstuck? Maybe you feel a little bit more space there. Notice if there are any other parts of the body that are asking for your attention or needing a little bit of love. Maybe there are parts of the body that feel quite differently from the way they did at the beginning of our practice. Just taking this moment to notice and connect. And then from here, we're going to move on to our belly for a moment. So finding a nice outstretched position on your front body. Adjusting your costume as needed, yes. And then from here, we'll take our forearms to the mat, press them into the mat. Thinking about having those elbows like right underneath the shoulders so that your arms look like L's or maybe sideways L's, depending on the length of the different parts of your arms. Pressing into the mat, into the floor with both hands, thinking about pressing through all four corners of the hand. And really letting the belly be soft and heavy and open, even relaxing the glutes here. You might like to widen your feet a little bit so that they're at least hip width apart, especially if you have tightness in the low back in this Sphinx pose. And from here, we're just gonna focus on having a nice back bending position that's supported by our bones a little bit more than our muscles here in this Sphinx position. Again, relaxing the belly, relaxing the glutes. And we're going to hold this one for just a little bit to help us get into the connective tissue in the low back, mid back, upper back here. So while we're here, reconnecting with that breath, sending it nice and deep into the body. Maybe you can even feel your belly expanding and contracting against the mat. And then from here, let's release that. Maybe you want to stack one hand on top of the other. Make a nice little pillow for your forehead and just lie here for a moment. Maybe you'd like to bend your knees and then kind of let your feet fall from side to side in a little bit of a windshield wiper, yes. Action, motion. Releasing a little tension through the hips and the low back here. And then again, just relaxing, resting for a moment. Letting the hips be heavy. Maybe you can relax the fronts of your hips. Okay. And from here, we're going to move on to our back. So whatever sequence of movements and motions works for you. Let's meet on our backs. So once we're here, let's plant our feet on the floor about hip width apart. We want a nice little bit of space between the heels and our bottom. You might like to plant those arms and hands long beside you on the mat. And then from here, we're going to think about really activating through our glutes as we roll the hips up to the ceiling. Feeling the strength of your legs, your back body while you're here. And then let's roll the hips down. Back down to the mat, relaxing here for a moment. And then let's do that again, rolling the hips up to the sky, really activating the hamstrings, the glutes, the low back, like really getting into that posterior chain of the body. And then we'll roll back down to the mat and pause here. And let's do that one more time. So again, engaging through the back body and rolling the hips up to the sky. Feeling the strength of your body here. And then rolling down, releasing the bridge. Maybe you'd like to draw the knees into your chest and rock side to side for a moment. Get a little bit of movement through the spine, a little spinal massage here on the floor. And then from here, let's take both of our knees and let both knees fall to one side. You can choose whichever side you prefer. You might like to outstretch the opposite arm and then turn to look over that shoulder right toward your fingers. And then again here, reconnecting with the breath in this passive posture, letting the weight of your body plus gravity do the work of the twist. And then we'll gently come back through center. Maybe you want to draw those knees into the chest one more time. Maybe a little rock side to side. And then from here, we'll just do that same thing on the second side. Dropping both knees. Maybe you'd like to outstretch the opposite arm, reaching away from the body, turning to look over that shoulder, toward your hand, your fingers. Again, letting your body be nice and heavy here. As we release the effort and rest a little. Reconnecting with that breath. And then let's move back through center one more time. Maybe give those knees a hug. Maybe you'd like to bring the knees a little bit wider and grab in between your legs toward your feet, toward your toes, toward your heels, toward your ankles, and get a little bit of a happy baby pose going here. One last little hip opener, opening up the low back a little bit, maybe rocking from side to side. And then from here, let's find our favorite resting posture. Maybe for you, that's both legs outstretched and arms long beside you, the classic Shavasana pose. Maybe for you, it's bringing those feet to the outside of the mat with our knees bent and then letting the knees fall together. This one can be really nice on the low back if that's feeling tender or tight. Could always do a reclined bound angle pose here with the soles of the feet together, the knees falling open. So play around with it, see what feels good. And then we'll settle into whatever your version of the rest is for today. Focusing on the weight of your body on the mat. Maybe you're ready to let the eyes close for a little bit. Reconnecting with the breath. Let's slow that breath down. And on your next breath cycle, as you breathe deeply into the lungs, letting the belly fully expand, notice how long the inhale lasts. Notice how long the exhale lasts. And then begin to lengthen your exhale with each breath cycle until you can extend that exhale maybe twice as long as the inhale. Maybe you inhale to a count of 3 and exhale to a count of 6. Using this unequal breathing technique to help message to our body, message to our brain, message to our nervous system that we are safe and it's time to relax and rest here. Taking these last few moments of our time together to let the body, let the brain, let the nervous system really integrate your practice, preparing you for hopefully a slightly more relaxed and refreshed rest of your afternoon. Again, feeling the weight of the body on the mat, on the floor. Noticing what it feels like to be fully supported right here in this moment, in this space. Held up here in time and space. And then we'll begin to reawaken, maybe wiggling fingers and toes. Maybe you want to take a nice long stretch on your mat. And then blinking the eyes open if they're not already. And we'll slowly transition back into a sitting position. So taking your time, maybe rolling over to one side and using the strength of your arms to push yourself up. And then just taking this moment to notice what it feels like to be in a new orientation after taking this time to care for yourself and practice. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm wishing you a wonderful weekend. Happy Oakland Pride. And I hope to get to see you again next month. Take good care, friends.